This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Here on the show, we talk all the time about replacing your paycheck in retirement. And of course, one of those ways is through what's called an annuity. But the question is, when should you buy one? Some say it's years before retirement, but Barron's Elizabeth O'Brien thinks that you may want to wait on that just a minute.
You know, a good time to buy if you're going for a fixed annuity is right when you need it. You know, in retirement or approaching retirement, you calculate your expenses. You say, okay, I want my essential expenses to be covered by Social Security or an annuity. That's a common thing. So here's how much I need. Let me go buy the annuity. You don't sort of buy it way in advance.
Interesting. I want to know, first of all, if you agree with her, Mark. And of course, what about the fact that there's, lots of different favorable rates on annuities right now? Shouldn't we consider that?
Well, absolutely. We should consider all those issues. I think she's right in that we need to be conscious of timing, but interest rates are higher now, which means we have bigger payouts now than we've seen in the last 20 years. And so if we're looking at income generating annuities versus simply safe growth annuities, there's a lot of wonderful bargains on the market, as it were. I know I've personally just bought another one for my family, and it's because the payouts are greater now. Interest rates are interesting because when interest rates drop, we refinance our homes and our automobile loans, things like that. But when interest rates increase, that's when we refinance our retirement, as it were. So it's the exact opposite dynamic. And so I always say as we get within 10 years of retirement, we need to start learning about these different instruments. And within 5 years of retirement, we need to start making specific choices and perhaps purchases. An annuity is not the best answer for everyone, but for many people, it's wonderful. I could think of a couple I worked with this last week where they had some real anxiety about particularly her, because often is the case, there's one spouse that's less engaged in the finances, and his great anxiety was making sure that she would be taken care of if he's around or not. And so we looked at what their income was, we looked at what their expectations were, and there's a gap for them, like for most people. And so the question is, how do we fill that gap? And an annuity allows us to do that on a contractually assured basis. So the insurance company is assuring income for you for life as long as you're breathing. And that's a tremendous satisfaction or comfort to men like me who are concerned that our wives are going to outlive us. We may have dependent children, as in my case, and I've got to make sure that income continues. And so, we can structure this on a contractually assured basis, and that gives a kind of confidence and peace of mind that I think is critical when people take that big dive into retirement, because there's a whole lot of other emotions that people don't realize. This transition into retirement can be very traumatic for some people. And so if we can get the financial stuff out of the way, then they can focus on what, in my opinion, are the more important issues of family and life. What's my purpose in this last chapter of life? So the money absolutely has to be taken care of, and we can take the guesswork out of that for people. We invite them to come in. Just come in. If you don't know about these things, let us educate you. Let us give you the books, the materials, so you can start learning about these things, and we can start contrasting. I don't work for a particular insurance company or investment company. I work for the client. And so we go out, we shop the entire marketplace. I'm agnostic regarding which company we work with, as long as they're A plus, they're A rated or better. We've got to be financially strong with the companies we choose. But there's lots of great options out there. And I would say sooner than later, if you have questions about these things, call us. Let's get together. Let us show you what's out there, because there are some wonderful opportunities. I own 5 annuities myself. I will own more in the future.
We preach, almost the same topics each and every single week, right? Replacing the paycheck, taxes, preparing for costs of long-term care, basically the ins and outs of preparing for retirement. So that in the conversation as well, talking about 2024 could be the biggest recession we will have seen to date. How frustrating is it to know that doing these things are so simple to call in and sit down with you, make it complimentary, yet folks are out there spending more time planning a vacation or planning a dinner with friends than they are their financial future?
Yeah, it's a bewilderment to me that people have, really candidly, they have unrealistic expectations. We're in a period of history that we've never experienced before, where people are expecting to retire and live in a non-earning capacity, as it were, for decades. Whereas prior generations expected, if they were going to retire, to maybe have 2 or 3 years, 5 years at most, of leisure. But we're now dealing with expectations of decades of leisure. I met with a couple last week, for example, where he in particular had incredibly unrealistic views about what he was going to be able to leave to his family and all these kind of travel and things that he wanted to do. Now this is a couple that's just come together preparing to marry. She's incredibly well prepared. She's got multiple pensions and the like. And my thought silently was, holy cow, buddy, you better be really good to her because you're not prepared and there's going to be an education process here. And of course, I have to be sensitive to that. But people's expectations and their realities are two different things. And we often retire earlier than we expect because of circumstances beyond our control. And if we're not prepared, if we haven't prioritized that future and the uncertainties such as a premature retirement, then we can get caught with our pants down. Warren Buffett once made that comment to the effect that, when the tides recede, you know who's swimming naked. And that's basically what you're describing here with the likelihood of recessions and hard times coming. I think back on 2008 here in Las Vegas when so many people were just hurt so badly. People in the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, the construction industries that were prematurely retired. Many of them were not prepared. They had to start rating their retirement accounts earlier than expected. In many cases, they were never able to go back to work. And only now, 15 years later, are they really realizing the serious consequences of having rated their account during a period of time when the market was down. There's what we call sequence of return risk, which refers to the fact that you and I don't control if the returns in the market are positive or negative in a given year. And if we retire and start depleting our accounts, withdrawing from our accounts when the market is down, that can have some pretty irreversible effects on the portfolio. So we've got to get these principal protected strategies in place, and we need to do these things sooner than later. It needs to be far more conscious for Americans than it is. You were exactly right in your comment. Most people spend more time planning for vacation than they do for their retirement. And that is so incredibly true. So I always say, come in. If you want to retire someday, come in, talk to professionals. I've talked to hundreds and, well, frankly, thousands of people over the last 30 years. And there's a fair bit that we've gleaned from that experience that we can share with people and help them prepare. So come on in, give us a call. We'd love to help you.
Mark, for those that are new to the show, they might be listening going, all right, I like what this guy has to say. He sounds like a really nice, genuine person, which, by the way, guys, he is. You're going to get exactly what you hear here on the radio in person. What makes you so passionate about helping individuals with their retirement, with their money? Why do you care so much, for example, if I fail or succeed in retirement?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I think in a lot of ways I live vicariously through my clients. I often use the analogy of the travel agent. I'm like the travel agent. My job is to help people choose their dream destination, figure out a path to get there. And the very last thing we do is choose the vehicles. But I vicariously experience the wonders of their retirement through them. I also have cried many times, frankly, because of some of the decisions that I've seen people make that I know are going to harm them. I think of a couple that insisted on retiring this last year, and I knew they weren't ready. And I kept trying to tell them, if you could just eke it out, even just 6 more months and knock that mortgage out, that they wouldn't hear of it. And now I know they're already in this last 12 months have been spending more than they should. I know what the implications of this are going to be because I've experienced it through hundreds of families over, thousands of families over the last 30 years. And not only can we teach strategies that give them peace of mind, but we actually have access to financial products that can contractually assure performance, things that they need, such as income assured. We can do that for them in a way that no one else on the planet really can. Now, I don't mean just me specifically. I mean my industry when I say that, no one else can do this. Our industry has access to financial vehicles that most consumers aren't even aware of. And so I always say, just come on in and learn what you don't know. I don't know everything. I'm not going to be perfect for everyone, but heavens, we've learned a lot over the last 30 years, and we can help people. And for me, it's a joyful experience to have them thank me as in the very sincere ways that many have. That's intensely satisfying for me. I personally don't plan to retire. I always want to stay engaged like this because helping in this manner feeds my heart.
Absolutely. And there's individuals in life, you being one of them, that this is what your, I guess, almost like your love language is, right? I mean, you love helping people. You want to see people succeed. You want to help them do better. And I love the story that you've shared before about your dad and how he told you that working with individuals' money. What do you say? It was sacred money?
Yeah, he was a chaplain in the Air Force, so you have to understand where his language comes from. I had decided not to continue with law school and was looking at other opportunities, decided to become a retirement planner. And he said, oh boy, or boy, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but that's sacred money. He said, you can't screw up with that. He says, people, they can't go back to work. He said, that just has to be safeguarded. And that comment was seared into my psyche, as it were, early on, that this is sacred money that we're dealing with. This is people's lives. I mean, I'm incredibly conscious of the fact that we all have traded our time, our life energy, often sacrificed personal opportunities so that we could generate income and generate savings, for the people that we love. That's what people are asking me to safeguard. And so that is sacred, I think. I don't use that word lightly. I really feel like it is. We're dealing with people's lives. You can't trifle with such things.
So we know tax day is come and gone, and now it's just time to rest easy, right? We can just put it on the shelf, not think about it till next April or so. Well, turns out maybe not. I came across an article that says one of the ways baby boomers are losing money when they do their taxes is they're not thinking ahead. So what do they mean by that? I mean, taxes is all about the year before, right?
Oh, my heavens. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah, we're conditioned to think in 12-month increments, and candidly, so are the accountants that we hire, which is, I think, a gross mistake for most of us. The truth is that many of the concepts we teach really require 5 to 10 years of planning to implement. So we can get people into a 0% tax bracket or very close to it with planning. Now, not everyone can realize that, but far more people than would expect can dramatically, if not totally, eliminate taxes in retirement. But it requires advanced planning. And the problem that I hear this constantly, we do these educational events down at the college, and people come in and say, oh, I wish I had heard this 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. And I'm thinking, holy cow, based on what you just told me your age is, I wish I had met you 5 or 10 years ago, because what they want me to do for them, I can still do into their 70s and 80s, but it's going to be far more painful than it should have been. If we can get together, when a person's 50 or 55 and start preparing 10, 15 years in advance, we can eliminate so much pain. But people come to us so late. They come to us, the week before retirement kind of thing, and they want us to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And, sometimes we can over time, but it's never going to be as painless as it could have been. And here's one of the challenges, candidly, is that the strategies we teach are counterintuitive to a lot of people. And once they hear it, it makes sense, but it's exactly opposite what their accountants have been training them to do. The accountants, they tend to think in 12-month increments. And so they're almost entirely reactive. They're taking the information you've given them, they're showing you how to reduce your tax bill today, and they're thinking in terms of today in these 12-month increments. Whereas I, conversely, as a charter retirement planning counselor, I'm looking out over 10, 20, 30-year time horizons. And over those time horizons, the tax bill is much different, and the strategies are much different than the strategies that a CPA or accountant would recommend for a 12-month window of time. And so that's one of the key questions that I always have to kind of flip back on people is, they say, well, wait a minute, if I do that, it's going to be painful now. And I'm saying, yeah, it will be painful now. It'll be painful whenever we do it, but it's a heck of a lot less painful if we do it now than if we do it in the future, when tax rates have increased significantly, as they undoubtedly will. They're going to have to, as a mathematical reality. The earlier, the easier the problem solving. Okay, Jessica, so, talking about this tax analysis, I can think of a number of different client situations. Self-employed people in particular often miss opportunities. I can think of a person who came into me who for years had not been taking advantage of some of these tax advantage retirement plans available to self-employed people. And we can show people how to put 6 figures literally into pre-tax retirement plans, tax-deferred retirement plans. Now, that may or may not be the best answer for everyone, but for self-employed people, it can often be a tremendous savings. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars that can be saved in the short run and much more than that in the long run. So we got to think differently about these retirement plans. For many cases, it's kind of a conduit. So certainly we can show people how, you're eligible for this or that retirement plan. A lot of spouses, for example, don't realize that the homemaker can do a spousal IRA just by virtue of putting up with her husband, or vice versa. By being married, you have certain rights. And a lot of people don't realize this. So we can save them immediately on taxes, but certainly long run, we can save them on taxes. At the end of the day, let's have a conversation, because there's far more opportunities than most people are even remotely aware of. And so it's just a matter of sitting down and talking.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and/or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.